All right, so we just finished mastering our track, and now we're going to tab over to the arrangement view. We're going to click on our loop brace, make sure it includes the beginning and ending, all that silent stuff. Effects are all on, volumes are all at 0. We can just click right here, right off the top on the loop brace and hit Shift Command R. And then we're going to be able to include the master, of course. You can pretty much leave all of this stuff turned completely off. And here is the one final time when you're going to want to add some dither. We'll talk about dither in a sec once we hit OK here. A nice 24-bit 44.1 wave makes sense. You want to make sure it's the same sample rate or double of the sample rate of the original recording. This was a 44.1 bounce, so I'm going to leave it. 24 bits for sure. And then in this case, if I wanted to make an MP3, I could. I'm going to not turn that on just to save time, but this is a really nice MP3 engine. It does give you really nice MP3s. So once you hit OK, you're going to want to put this into your project folder from your original track. And in this case, I'm just going to call this the name of the song, Intelligent Democracy Music. Just the full name of the track, no spaces, no symbols if possible. Doesn't matter too much. Throw it into your project folder. So that's going to render that out. Now I get to tell you about dither. So dither is a filter that will remove aliasing. In other words, like any subtle digital distortion that gets left behind from converting the file between different sample rates and bit depths, especially if you did have some recordings in your session that were different sample rates. The dither is going to help filter out any unnecessary noise. In other words, then when you do like normalize or master the file, when you pump it up, you'll just be pumping up the good stuff, and there won't be any leftover distortion frequencies that are unwanted artifacts due to sample rate conversion. That's some totally nerdy shit. But now that we've gotten past the nerdy stuff, let's get into the fun stuff. I'm going to grab my wave and I'm going to drop it right back into my session. Glavin. We'll get a chance to look at our song and see what it looks like. Usually like to vertically zoom my tracks to be about the same. You can use Shift Option and 2 fingers, get them to be about the same height. Look at that. That is a nice, loud, spicy meatball. And now if we wanted to, we could just mute this track and we could zoom in on this and make sure it got dropped in right at the top. Oops, I just didn't quite aim that drop in at the right spot. And now we've got a nice mastered track. Usually what I'll do is I'll go in and look at the loudest part of the track and check out what the peaks look like. Nice. Even these peaks here, there, see that little roll off on the top? It's not a sharp corner, it's a curve. If you saw like a sharp, jagged corner, that's the kind of distortion that's going to leave unnecessary or undesirable harmonics. Now in this case, it's kind of curving and rolling off the top. That's that glue compressor soft clip limiter. And if you decided after listening to this, you know, it's a little too much, we would know what parameter to go back in. We'd go right in here and just turn this makeup gain down a tiny bit, and you're going to have a little more dynamics in the mix. Now in this case, let's just listen to this thing quick and see how it sounds. Again, making sure we're at 0, we're peaking at negative 0.5, and our RMS here is about negative 7. Once that sub bass hits, we'll probably be up around negative 4 on the RMS. This kind of volume is what you're going to need for a DJ set. There's the sub bass. Yep, negative 4. Cool, so this all sounds good. I'm listening closely for any sort of weirdnesses like overloads or distortion that sounds yucky. Everything feels pretty good and sounds nice. It doesn't hurt my ears at all. I'm pretty happy with this. So A last little tip I can give you, and this is what any mastering engineer should always make sure to suggest, is that you go ahead and before really calling it completely done, take one of your favorite artists' tracks in that style, in the style of the music that you're mastering, especially if it's not your own tracks. You absolutely want to do this for sure. I'm going to go ahead and grab an Aphex Twin song that's probably close and take a look at the waveform here. Now, this is a song, you know, of a similar genre, and if I look at it with about the same kind of height on the track, I can see what that's looking like too. Let's zoom in on a loud kick drum part of the track here and see what that looks like. Let's look at Aphex Twin's peaks. See how they're hitting the top, but they're kind of rounded off? That looks about the same. Let's listen RMS-wise and see what that sounds like. -4. Here comes the bass line. Damn, love him. So now that's a good start. So the next thing I would do is throw up the crossfader. This can be kind of painful because nailing a mix like your favorite producers can be really hard. But I just will unmute my mastered track, have them side by side, and then I'll assign the crossfader here to be A and B. And then right here on the crossfader switch itself, the fader itself, I'll hit key mapping, and you'll notice you can key map to the left or right of the crossfader. So this will allow me now, I can hit shift and spacebar. Now I can hit 1 or 2 to A-B. And just kind of get a feel for how it feels, you know? And you know what I'm taking away from this? First of all, we could be a little louder. Isn't that amazing? Like, how could this be louder? But it really could be. I think we could get away if we really wanted to. We could pump up our own track a little louder even with that makeup gain on the glue compressor. Another thing I'm noticing is that his track is peaking at 0, like all the way up. See if I reset this fader. Our peaks are going all the way up. Now, generally speaking, when you're mastering your own songs, you want to give them a tiny bit of headroom. This is because, especially they say when you convert your track to an MP3, it does get, there's a little bit of distortion that can happen if it's all the way up to 0. So there's different schools of thought on that. If you wanted to add the 0.5 dB, there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can go to the original track and you can just put a utility on there and add 0.5, and that'll put your peaks right up at 0. Another thing you can do when you do go to bounce it out, you can just turn normalize on, and that's going to end up for sure guaranteeing that your wave file is at -0 dB. Different schools of thought on that. I personally like to leave a 0.5 dB up there, especially because I know I'm going to turn this track into a wave or into an MP3, and I've just read a little bit about how there's a good argument for leaving a tiny bit of headroom on top of the file if you're going to convert it to an MP3. So either way, that leaves us feeling pretty confident. We can A-B between our tracks. Let's go to a part where they're both kicking. Now, it makes a lot of sense to have a similar kind of mix going on, and these sections of these songs are so different. I felt like the beginning here was really where it was kicked. Now if we go over here, yeah, like so we can just line those sections up if you wanted. So here we're going to have a nice A-B mix between these two. And that's generally pretty satisfactory when things feel good and nice and well balanced. And similar types of sections of the song, of course, you wouldn't want to compare the build or the breakdown to the drop or something, but lining those up can make sense. And now we've got a nice feel for how this works. We can call this reference track. And that could be another thing we could easily build into our template. So now we have an A-B with a switcher that we can have right nice and packed up in there under the hood. So we'll know that we'll be able to bounce check the reference and then the original track. And you can just keep making new versions, making little tweaks. This is a really great place to leave off. So again, there's lots of different schools of thought when it comes to mixing and maximizing or mastering your track. And yeah, thanks a lot for taking this class. Appreciate you very much and look forward to working with you in upcoming courses. And I wish you all the best. All right, peace.